Did you know Chuck Berry allegedly installed hidden cameras in the women's restroom after he bought it in 1987? In 1994, Chuck Berry reportedly settled 2 lawsuits for $1,140,000. Chuck Berry was often referred to the founding father of how rock and roll accompanied with his unique guitar-playing style. Known for hits like Sweet Little 16, rock and roll music, and Roll Over Beethoven, Chuck influenced several generations, including the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. Berry's personal life struggles and scandals often surpasses his abilities as a musician. So, if you're a Chuck Berry fan or simply curious about this legend, hit the like button and let's dive in. How was Chuck Berry's early life like? Chuck Berry, born as Charles Edward Anderson Berry on October 18, 1926, in St. Louis, was raised in a segregated middle-class neighborhood. During his upbringing, he immersed himself in various musical genres, including gospel, blues, rhythm and blues, and even some country music. Did Chuck Berry attend reform schools? Following a series of car thefts and armed robberies, Chuck Berry spent 3 years in reform school. After his release, he pursued education and earned a degree in hairdressing and cosmetology. He later worked as a beautician. In 1948, he married the Meta Suggs, and they started a family together. How Chuck got into music. By the early 1950s, Chuck Berry was already an adept guitarist and singer, performing blues, pop standards, and occasional country tunes with local bands. After joining Sir John's trio, led by pianist Johnny Johnson, Berry reshaped the group's music and eventually took control. Inspired by Texas guitarist T-Bone Walker, Berry mastered the technique of bending 2 strings simultaneously, creating what became known as the Chuck Berry lick. This iconic guitar riff would be emulated by legendary bands like the Rolling Stones and many others. Berry also incorporated elements of country music, infusing his guitar lines with a distinctive hillbilly twang. His unique blend of musical styles, coupled with his charisma and stage presence, attracted both white and black audiences to venues like the Cosmopolitan Club in St. Louis. In 1955, Berry traveled to Chicago and approached blues icon Muddy Waters for advice on making records. Waters directed him to Chess Records, where co-owner Leonard Chess recognized the potential in Berry's song Ida Red. Despite being in his late 20s and early 30s, Berry crafted songs that captured the experiences of high school life and embraced the emerging genre of rock and roll. What were Chuck Berry's biggest songs? Chuck Berry had several iconic and influential songs throughout his career. Some of his biggest and most well-known hits include 1. Johnny B. Good. This is perhaps Chuck Berry's most famous song, often cited as one of the greatest rock and roll songs. It has been covered by numerous artists and featured in several movies and TV shows. 2. Roll Over Beethoven, a classic rock and roll anthem that became one of Berry's signature songs. 3. Maybelline, Berry's first hit single, blending blues and country influences and marking the beginning of his successful career. 4. Rock and Roll Music, another popular hit, later covered by the Beatles among others. 5. Sweet Little 16, a song that captures the spirit of teenage life in the 1950s and became a chart-topping hit for Berry. 6. School Days, a nostalgic reflection on the trials and tribulations of school life, resonating with many young listeners. 7. Brown-Eyed Handsome Man, a lively and upbeat track that showcases Berry's storytelling abilities. 8. You Never Can Tell, a catchy tune that gained renewed popularity after being featured in the film Pulp Fiction. 9. Nadine, Is It You? A humorous and catchy song that became one of Berry's notable hits. These songs, among others, solidified Chuck Berry's status as a pioneer of rock and roll and left a lasting impact on the music industry. His work continues to be celebrated and revered by musicians and fans around the world. How many times was Chuck Berry arrested? Chuck Berry's life was indeed marked by controversy, including legal issues and accusations of misconduct. In 1959, he was arrested for violating the Mann Act, a law often used to target consensual non-marital relationships, especially those involving interracial couples. Berry was accused of taking a 14-year-old girl across state lines for immoral purposes. He was convicted by an all-white jury and initially sentenced to 5 years in prison by Judge George Moore. However, the conviction was overturned due to racist remarks made by the judge. In a subsequent trial, Berry was convicted again and served 20 months behind bars. During his time in prison, he wrote several songs. In 1989, Berry faced another legal issue when he was accused of installing a video camera in the ladies' toilet of his Missouri restaurant. Tapes from this camera were found in Berry's home, leading to legal consequences. He received a suspended sentence and settled a class action lawsuit with 59 women who were affected by this incident. In 1979, Chuck Berry encountered legal trouble once again, this time facing tax charges. He admitted to cheating the federal government out of $110,000 in income taxes. During his sentencing, Berry became emotional, breaking into tears twice. The judge sentenced him to 120 days behind bars and placed him on 4 years probation as a result of the plea deal. Chuck Berry faced legal issues once more in June 1988 when he was charged with assault. However, he failed to appear in court, resulting in a bench warrant for his arrest. Allegedly, a police raid at Chuck Berry's residence resulted in the discovery of intimate videotapes involving women, one of whom was purportedly a minor. During the raid, authorities also found 62 grams of marijuana. As a consequence, Berry faced felony drug and child abuse charges. The child abuse charges were eventually dropped, but Berry pleaded guilty to misdemeanor possession of marijuana. He received a 6-month suspended jail sentence, was placed on 2 years of unsupervised probation, and was ordered to donate $5,000 to a local hospital as part of his punishment. Subsequently, additional videos reportedly emerged, depicting Berry involved in inappropriate activities. Who was Chuck Berry married to and his children? Chuck Berry and his wife, the Meta Toddy Suggs, indeed had a lasting and enduring marriage. They were married in October 1948, and despite the challenges they faced, including Berry's legal troubles, their love endured for nearly 70 years. The Meta Suggs was born on November 13, 1925, in St. Louis, Missouri. Throughout their marriage, the couple remained committed to each other and their family. They had 4 children together: Ingrid Berry, Melody Eskridge, Aloha Isa Lee Berry, and Charles Berry Jr. Chuck Berry's legacy not only includes his immense contributions to music but also the strong and enduring family bond he shared with the Meta and their children. Ingrid Berry, the daughter of the renowned singer, songwriter, and guitarist Chuck Berry, has continued her father's musical legacy. A talented musical artist in her own right, she followed in her father's footsteps and ventured into the music business. Ingrid specializes in playing the harmonica and has been an integral part of her father's backing band, often performing at the famous Blueberry Hill venue. Her musical contributions can be heard on several of Chuck Berry's albums, and she has been a dedicated band member since the early 1970s, showcasing her musical prowess alongside her legendary father. Charles Berry Jr., the only son of Chuck Berry, became a part of his father's band in the early 2000s. He played guitar alongside his father during the extensive touring years of the 1980s. In a recent interview with Rolling Stone, Charles Jr. shared some poignant and extraordinary memories about his iconic father, offering insights into their close relationship and the experiences they shared during their time together on stage. How Chuck Berry died. Indeed, Chuck Berry, a rock and roll pioneer with a career spanning over 6 decades, passed away on March 18, 2017, at the age of 90, due to natural causes. Chuck Berry was discovered unresponsive at his residence near Wentzville, Missouri. Despite efforts by emergency responders, he could not be revived and was pronounced dead by his personal physician. An audio recording from a 911 call reporting a cardiac arrest at Berry's home was posted on TMZ's website. Berry's funeral took place on April 9, 2017, at the Pageant, a venue in his hometown of St. Louis, where friends, family, and fans gathered to bid farewell to the legendary musician. At the time of his death, he left behind a net worth of $10 million. His contributions to music and his influence on the rock and roll genre continue to be celebrated, ensuring that his legacy lives on in the hearts of fans and musicians alike. Berry's impact on the music industry and his iconic songs ensure he will always be remembered as one of the founding figures of rock and roll.